So welcome. My name is Melissa. I am the manager of grants and community engagement here at ArtsBuild. We welcome y'all. There's 27 plus folks on the call, so that's very exciting. What we're going to do today, this is the ArtsBuild's communities info session. And I have a bunch of slides. You're welcome to put questions in the chat. Also, at the end, I'll open it up for questions. Potentially, I might, if I'm going through my slides, not see the questions in the chat right away. But at the end, I'll go through and answer them and get everybody taken care of. I'm going to share my slides. If you need anything, use the raise your hand button. That would be great. Just a second, and I'll get it in presentation mode. Okay. Can everybody see my slides? Thumbs up if you can see. Awesome, thank you. That was helpful. Okay. So as I said, I'm Melissa, and welcome to the ArtsBuild's community grant information session. We will go through a whole bunch of items. Don't let this feel overwhelming. I'm going to walk you through it, and then I also will be your support between now and July 3rd as you're writing and submitting your grant. So we're going to talk about who the Tennessee Arts Commission is and ArtsBuild, the objections of this grant. We say ABC versus ArtsBuild's communities, a lot easier. The application deadlines, eligibility, funding, restrictions, activities, scoring, important websites, which I reminded y'all that I already put in the chat, and then talk about TAC grant registration. So the Tennessee Arts Commission, and I'm just going to read this because they have a fantastic statement, well crafted. The Tennessee Arts Commission was created in 1967 by the Tennessee General Assembly with a special mandate to stimulate and encourage the presentation of the visual, literary, music, and performing arts, and to encourage public interest in the cultural heritage of Tennessee. The mission of Tennessee Arts Commission is to cultivate the arts for the benefit of all Tennesseans and their communities. Their vision is a Tennessee where the arts inspire, connect, and enhance everyday lives. And below, I've put their website. Their newsletter is phenomenal, keeps you up to date with what's going on over at the commission, particularly when funding opportunities arise. So I encourage y'all to sign up for that newsletter if you haven't. And a significant aspect of the Tennessee Arts Commission is the specialty plates. And on average, 80% of the arts grants are funded through the purchase of these specialty plates. And you'll see in the upper left or right, I'm not good with that. I'm looking at it differently than y'all, but you'll see the 4 plates there. And $35 of that fee goes back to the Tennessee Arts Commission, goes back to funding grants, funding programs, funding arts and culture throughout Tennessee. And even if it's not your time to get a new plate, they'll prorate it based on where you're at in the year. So we encourage you all to consider getting a specialty arts plate. So ArtsBuild, that's who we are. ArtsBuild, our mission is to build a stronger community through the arts. A significant number of you all on this call know a lot about ArtsBuild, and then some of you are maybe newer to our organization. We are an arts organization committed to funding the arts throughout Hamilton County and Chattanooga. Encouraging arts leadership, arts education, advocacy, leadership development for our artists, arts organizations, community leaders, regular organizations who want to infuse art. And so what you're doing here today is the ABC grant is one of the 6 grant programs that we push out throughout the year to ensure that arts and culture is vibrant and alive in Hamilton County. Yes. So the ArtsBuild community grant is designed to provide support for arts projects. Sorry, I can't read that. For arts projects that broaden access to arts experiences, address community quality of life through the arts, or enhance the sustainability of asset-based cultural enterprises. So there are 13 designated agencies throughout Tennessee that administer this program on behalf of the Tennessee Arts Commission. So there are 95 counties covered by this grant. That said, so this money flows down through the Tennessee Arts Commission, but ArtsBuild facilitates the program for Hamilton County. So though you're technically applying for Tennessee Arts Commission funding, you'll be working directly through us through the application process, and also hopefully when you're awarded, the facilitation of your project throughout the funding cycle. So these are the breakdown of the overview of the count, the 13 designated areas. So let's say that you're an organization that is not based in Hamilton County. Sometimes on our info sessions, we have folks who jump in from Bradley County or Polk, and because they've heard about our info session. It's perfectly fine to stay on this session. The information I'm going to provide you is across the board for the state. There is some specific to Hamilton County in terms of like, the groups you're working with and such. That said, you can jump over to the Tennessee Arts Commission website, which I provided the link to find who your designated agency is, and that you could also join their info session. If you have trouble with that, you just reach out to me and I'll get you connected with the right person. So there's objectives for the ABC grant. It's to provide new and innovative arts experiences. Examples of the past have been, we've had arts festivals, theater performances, concerts, visual arts exhibits, craft shows. They also affect positive change in the community in relation to social issues. So if you have a population of community members such as veterans, seniors, cancer patients, underserved populations within Hamilton County, you can create an arts experience for that population and plan that. As well, it's to strengthen social networks through community engagement. It's also to enhance a community's identity and development, and offer training for artists or arts administrator. So the reality is ABC can be used for a variety of projects and arts experiences. The overall goal is to engage folks in art, open to the general public. So it's not a closed door experience. So you're opening up the door to arts and culture to the general public. I am going to give an opportunity for folks. I've gone through a lot so far. Do you have any questions? I'll pause for a second, see if any thoughts or questions have arisen so far. I think we're good. So the application is open. It opened on April 3rd through the Commission's online grant system. The application is due July 3rd at 11:59 p.m. That looks like a very long time. What I invite and encourage you to do is jump on this sooner than later. What I have found through the Commission's site is it does take a moment to get used to that system and to really get a full grasp of what is needed. And so, waiting till June to do this might add stress to your life and things of that nature. I would go ahead and register through their online system, get a feel for what they're asking in their application to see if it would pertain to the project that you're thinking about. I will offer the opportunity to review your draft. The deadline for that is June 19th. This gives me time because it is a very competitive grant. And so it gives me time to really take the needed moments to read through your draft, give you feedback that week so you can get it submitted in time for July 3rd. And so those dates again, applications open, due July 3rd, June 19th is my deadline to contact me for the draft review. So there's some eligibility aspects of this grant, as with all grants. This grant requires that you are a 501c3 legally chartered in Tennessee. If you yourself are not, you're welcome to work with an organization that is and create a project together. You can be a local entity of government departments, public libraries, and public schools. I will address the school projects later. There are specifics to if you're a school and want to write a grant. There's some aspects that are very specific to schools, and I'll attend to that later. So there, I'm going to read a short paragraph about the unique entity identifier. This is potentially a confusing aspect for some grantees, but it's actually very simple. So last year in April, there was a switch from DUNS to UEI. And so in April 2022, the federal government transitioned away from the use of DUNS towards the new unique entity ID as a primary means of entity identification for federal awards government-wide, which is a lot of words, right? Reality is you need this UEI number to apply for this grant. And also you need this number to apply for other federally backed funded programs. So it's a good time if you don't have one to go ahead and get it. And in the chat, I did the link to how to apply. It's free to apply. It only takes traditionally, I have noticed it takes about a week turnaround to get the number. That said, you can apply for this grant without it being finalized. You can't get your first check if you're funded without that finalized. And so not only should you jump on the Tennessee Arts Commission website to sign up for their grant system if you haven't already, but you also just go ahead and apply for the UEI number. And I see that Leslie's hand is up. Do you have a question, Leslie?
I do. Thank you so much. Our organization has explored applying for a UEI number, but at this time, we don't have a physical address. We only have a PO box address for our 501c3. And that appears to be something, it seems to us that we have to have a physical address in order to get a UEI. So I'm curious if you have any thoughts or have heard of organizations bumping into this before, and if you have any suggestions for what we could do, or if any other organizations perhaps have experience with this.
Yeah, that's a great question, and actually a question I don't have the answer for. But what I will do is I'll reach out to the Tennessee Arts Commission and get feedback from them and include that in the email to all of the folks registered, because you're not the only one. Interestingly enough, I haven't run into that this last year. So I'm glad you asked it, because I know that might arise more and more. So I'll include that in the email, Leslie.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Can I tell her my experience with that?
Yes, ma'am.
So I contacted the Duns people when I first applied for the Duns, and they asked me what address I was using for my actual business, and I use my home address for my nonprofit. And your home address already has a Duns connected to it. You would just get another one for your business. And then that same DUNS number you would use to apply for your UEI.
Okay.
That is, if you don't have more than one person or somebody wants to use their address, because I now have two DUNS number, one for my address and one for my business, even though it's the same place.
Okay, that's good to know.
That is helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see if any individual in our organization is willing to put up their address for that purpose.
And for
But
sure.
that's
And
awesome.
let me reach out to TAC, and y'all, this is probably not the first time they've been asked this, and so it'd be good for me to know, and then you all will know as well. Yeah. So in terms of the ABC grant, some folks on this call actually were funded this last year, and have noticed that it went up from $3,500 to now up to $5,000, which we're very excited about. So note that you don't have to apply for all 5,000, but you have that opportunity to do kind of an expanded project based on that funding increase. You'll notice that, so when you get into the application, there are going to be several tables, expense tables and an income table. And that is where you potentially want to reach out to me, and I can support you walking through it. One thing I do like about the application through the Tennessee Arts Commission grants portal is they're very good about the descriptions above each question or each table. And so if you kind of just sort of soak that all in and follow that to the T, you're going to be great. But some of y'all, this is your first time and it can be overwhelming. So always reach out to me. For example, so you can request funds up to $5,000, but the requested funds, like the grant refunds, can only fall into 2 expense categories. And that's going to make sense when you see it. Now, when you do your matching funds, there's a $1-to-$1 match. So it's not an in-kind match, it's a 1-to-1 match. So when you do your 1-to-1 match, it can fall into more than 2 expense categories. Some of y'all right now, your brains are going, what? Once you look at the table, it's going to make a lot more sense. Just know that you're requesting up to $5,000 in 2 categories. When you do your 1-to-1 match, it can be more than 2 line items in that table. Any questions about that? Have I completely scared y'all away? Oh, now they're good. Okay. Okay. When you can use the grant funding is August 16th through June 15th, 2024. So it's an interesting, for a lot of organizations want to do summer programming. And this one, I mean, it does fall a little bit within summer, but it mostly falls within you think of the Hamilton County school year, more or less, a little bit into June. And so you're thinking a lot about fall programming, spring program, very early summer programming, things of that nature. They're very clear on what can be used for ABC funds and what cannot. If the project is already being funded by the commission, you can't double dip. You can't apply for ABC funds to layer into another project they're funding. You can't use it for capital improvement or permanent equipment purchases or elimination of accumulated deficit. Can't be used for seed money or in-school curriculum-based projects. So this is where we go back to, let's say a school wants to apply. Absolutely, perfectly fine. It cannot be for in-school experiences, classroom curriculum-based projects. But if your school has an out-of-school project that's happening, that's benefiting the community, engaging your students, a school can apply. If, let's say, you are looking for funding that's in school and curriculum-based, there are other programs, which a further slide talks about, other programs through the Tennessee Arts Commission that are dedicated for that aspect. And so if you are school applying, reach out and talk to me about what you're thinking about. And then I'll say, yeah, that totally is appropriate for ABC. Or I'll say, nope, but I suggest you go here. And we can work through it. Other things like that are not covered, cannot be covered, is such as out-of-state travel expenses and things of that nature. But there's a lot of appropriate activities that can happen within the ABC grant, funding parameters. And so the majority of the projects traditionally are for artist fees, outside fees for production, curation, presentation of the arts. Expenses that can be covered are examples are supply, shipping, and equipment rental for the project, marketing costs, salaries, benefits, and taxes, in-state travel. So this is just a snippet of what can be covered. When you go to the Tennessee Arts Commission site, everything I'm saying here plus more is on their ABC grants page, and you just click it and you can read through to kind of familiarize with all the many ways in which you can use the funding. Re-emphasizing some things that can't, that aren't allowable through ABC is planned fundraising events. I get that a lot in terms of ABC, and that is just not an aspect that this one covers. There's other grants that can support you in this endeavor. If you have questions about that, you can reach out directly. You can't use it for food and hospitality. That's a big one that folks traditionally come to us and say, hey, can they pay for food? Because, a lot of events do include food. So how you do that one is the food and hospitality can be part of your one-to-one match. So the funds you're requesting are being used for other expenses. And then when you're matching, that can fall into event facilitation. Re-emphasizing can't be for out-of-state travel. The events do need to be open to the general public. So if it's a closed door event, this isn't the most appropriate event grant for you. So this is going back to schools who are applying. So if your school is not project is not really, it doesn't fit well within ABC, there are other pathways to finding funding, such as community learning, arts pathway for youth success, teacher training, and student ticket subsidy. So if you go to the Tennessee Arts Commission website, you'll see where it says grants and programs, and you just click and read about it, and it's very clear. And it also lists the Associated Tennessee Arts Commission staff person that you can touch base with if you have further questions. So the grants are scored on a 100-point scale, and these are the 4 scoring criteria: artistic, cultural merit, community engagement and participation, budget and financial support, and operational practice. On the TAC website, they talk more micro about what each of that means. And so I encourage y'all to look through that to see, as you're writing your grant, to make sure you're touching in on each of those aspects. When I do your draft review, I have this evaluation criteria in mind as I'm reading it, so that when I give you feedback, I am tailoring it to how it's being scored. And all of the grants are actually read and scored by local peers of ours. And so it's a panel of 5, and 4 are local community members, and 1 is a TAC commissioner or staff person on this panel. And they read and they score, and then they join us on a panel review via, they use Teams versus Zoom. And if you're invited to that panel, you as an organization comes on for about, I think it's about 10 minutes, if I remember correctly, to talk about your application, answer any questions that they have, things of that nature, and then scores are finalized. I see that Mark has his hand raised. Do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. On the marginalized community, I guess that would, under your scoring rubric, that would probably fall under those categories of cultural merit or community engagement. If
Absolutely.
so there's a 2-part question. If I'm not part of a marginalized community, should I just stop right now, or should I, but if our project benefits those in a marginalized community, should we proceed?
So you yourself don't necessarily have to be a marginalized community member to apply. So the goal of the grants is to expand arts and culture for the general public, traditionally hitting on folks who are not normally exposed as readily to arts and culture. So if your project is doing that, then that falls well within ABC. And there's a lot of definitions to what does marginalized community mean. And so as you're formulating your ideas and thoughts about your grant, you're welcome to set up a time for us to talk through your project before you get it out on paper and take that time. And I can give feedback as if it's appropriate for ABC or potentially another ArtsBuild grant coming up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This is all of the links that I put into the chat that y'all can, click on. The first one is the main page for the Tennessee Arts Commission. The second one goes specifically to grants and then to the ABC. They did a great job. I think this was during the pandemic where there was bandwidth to do so. They created these ABC tutorials that are very straightforward, that you can go through as you're trying to, figure out their system and get a sense of how to submit your application. And then there's the grant system website, and then the link to apply for UEI. So it's a lot of links, but a lot of them, you might not need all of them, but I wanted you to have them available. I'm going to stop sharing and open up the opportunity for folks to ask questions, or, if you wanted to, talk about your idea, or if you are on this call and are currently or in the past have been an ABC recipient, and talk about the experience, I welcome that as well. So there is a question, are any grants offered for long-term support, or are they only offered for short-term projects? So ABC would be, I was considered a short-term project. So that's the one that we support and manage on behalf of the Tennessee Arts Commission. What I would encourage you, I know they have a whole host of grants. Jump on the Tennessee Arts Commission website and just look at all their grants and see if there's one that's more long-term.
I brought the wrong parts for yours.
Okay, that's fine.
I brought the wrong stupid color. I got them and there's the wrong color, so I'll get them.
So let's see, any other questions? I'm looking through.
And then I'll call you back later this evening. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, Justin said, we're an organization that works in marginalized neighborhoods in Chattanooga, but are looking to partner with an organization. Any suggestions to find a partner? So my suggestion is to shoot me an email and talk about what you want to do in your communities. And then that way I'll know, for example, like maybe you're a great pair with Art 120, or maybe Splash, or maybe even the Hunter Museum. So as an organization, we have 19 community arts partners that I can connect you with, as well as other organizations that have received our Community Cultural Connections grant. So we have a pulse of what each of those organizations are doing in the community, and I can pair you with some options. So I'm going to put my email in the chat for folks. That you have it. Okay, I think I got all of the questions in the chat. So you'll have
Melissa.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Heather from Reflection Writing. I dropped a question in about asking whether, I don't know if it came in, I'm having technical difficulties, but I was asking about whether you guys could help us find the artists to whom we want to give the work from the funding.
Absolutely. So as an organization, we have worked with and supported lots of artists through the years. And so we can send you a list of artists that you can choose from. There are artists that we successfully funded or seen projects happen throughout Chattanooga. So definitely, you can give us, some parameters of, you're looking for visual arts or a muralist or musicians or things like that. Kind of give us parameters, and then we can email you a list of folks. Any other questions? I do notice that we have a few of our applicants who receive mission support funding through our organization. And a question that often arises is, are we eligible to apply for ABC? And yes, you're eligible to apply for this grant. There's only one grant that we facilitate that you're not eligible for, that's CCC, but this one you can apply for. The other thing that I will mention is, if you receive other funding through the Tennessee Arts Commission, I would check in with the person associated with that program to make sure you can also apply for ABC. Some grants that you receive through them knock you out for ABC. I can also find that out for you if you let me know. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you. I'll stop the recording and I'll hang on for a second. So if other questions do arise,